Welcome to the Adapted Ambitions podcast. Here we rewrite the rules of success for professional women over 40. This is the place where experience meets reinvention and where we tackle bold career moves, inspiring pivots and strategies to help you create a career and life that you truly love. My name is Ada Offonry. I am a talent leader and career coach with years of experience partnering with professionals at pivotal career crossroads. I've seen it all, from climbing the corporate ladder to leaping off it entirely, and I'm here to help you figure out your next big move. Because let's be honest, the so-called career rules we grew up with, they're really outdated. Your experience isn't just valuable, it's actually your superpower. So I'll show you exactly how to use the superpower to create your best chapter yet. Whether you're thinking about a career change, launching your own business, or you just want more purpose and balance in your work, you're in the right place. Welcome to Adapted Ambitions. Let's dive in. On this episode of the Adapted Ambitions podcast, I want to talk a little bit about why it's never too late to pivot and how you can embrace reinvention at 40 and beyond. A lot of the career development and transition information that I found online tends to be aimed at people in their 20s and 30s. I feel that it neglects the needs of folks who are in midlife or mid-career. And as I speak to people who are at this point in their lives, one of the things that I realize is that people are genuinely terrified to make a move, even if it means that they're miserable where they are, because there's so much at stake. So if you think about it, by the time you're in your 40s, the responsibilities have really compounded. Many people have kids, and so their fees and all the associated costs that come with that. Typically, people at this point in their lives have started sort of giving care to their parents. And then there's the issue of mortgages, which need to be paid off. By this point in people's lives, they're accustomed to a certain type of lifestyle. And so there's comfort associated with that lifestyle that many people don't want to give up. And then, obviously some people have medical situations that they need to contend with. There's also a generational / cultural thing about some folks feeling that it's really indulgent to go after what you want when you have so many responsibilities. So all of those things and more kind of make it really challenging for people in midlife, mid-career to pivot. And there's a general kind of reticence to that. But the reality is that pivoting into a new career or starting a new business, as hard as these things are, one of the things that's harder is regret, right? So imagine being in your 60s, 70s and looking back and realizing that you could have tried, you could have pivoted, but you didn't. And realizing that, maybe with a bit of intention, a bit of planning, you could have really changed your situation. So if I leave you with nothing from today's podcast, is the idea that it's never too late to change. It really isn't. So let's look at some statistics regarding the career landscape for women over 40. So according to a 2023 UK survey, nearly 50% of women aged 40 to 45 are considering a career change. And this is specifically to improve their work-life balance or pursue something more fulfilling. In the US, women over 40 represent one of the fastest growing demographics in entrepreneurship, accounting for nearly 25% of new business ventures annually. So if you're somebody who is dissatisfied and stressed and burnt out, you're not alone. And even if you're somebody who isn't feeling dissatisfied or stressed or burnt out, if it's just a matter of you desiring a change, that's okay as well. One of the reasons why I named this podcast Adapted Ambitions is because I wanted to recognize that as human beings, we change over time, and so do our desires and our ambitions and our needs, and that's all okay. When I speak to people who are sort of in mid-career, midlife and are desiring a pivot, there are a few reasons that they give me about why it may not be possible for them. So one is that they feel that they're too old to pivot. Another reason is that they feel overwhelmed by technology. So they're suspicious of social media and they don't even know where to begin learning about generative AI. A third reason is that people aren't really sure how transferable their skills are, particularly if they've worked in a corporate environment all of their career. Then the last reason is something I mentioned before, which is that there's just too much at stake. I think the thing to note is that if you're in midlife, mid-career, there are a few distinct attributes that really make you an exceptional candidate for reinvention. So the first thing is your professional experience. By the time you're in your 40s and 50s, you've worked with multiple bosses, you've been the boss a few times, you've dealt with corporate restructures, etc. So you have a wealth of experience under your belt. The second thing is that you have a lot of life experience. You've had to juggle work and your personal life. Maybe you're a parent. Maybe you have outside interests outside of work that you've had to contend with over time. And what the combination of the professional experience and life experience mean is that you've developed a number of attributes which are really important and are really vital in helping you thrive at this next phase of your life and career. So some of the attributes include resilience, coming from sort of dealing with setbacks, tenacity, even a dose of humor. All of these things mean that if you're somebody over the age of 40, you're in a really good position for a reinvention. The last attribute I want to mention is a level of self-awareness. You know a lot more about yourself. You know a lot more about the world at this point in your life. And so the context with which you enter into any situation just means that you can really add value. So with all of these things, I want to kind of talk about some of the things you can do if you are considering pivoting your career or pivoting into starting your own business. The first thing I would say is to reflect on your history. So that will include looking at your strengths, looking at your skills and experiences, looking at your values, and really being clear about what you've done, what you liked about what you've done, what you feel your strengths are, and what you want to continue doing potentially. The second thing I'd say to do is really to give yourself permission to dream. One of the things I find from speaking to people who are seeking a pivot at this point in their lives is that they rule themselves out of so many things. And these are really kind of based on assumptions and, all sorts of reasons that don't even make sense in reality. So give yourself permission to dream. Write down all the possibilities of careers that you can move into. It doesn't matter how preposterous these ideas seem. Just write it down and give yourself permission to dream. The third thing I would say is to really start researching some of these possibilities. Don't be caught up in making assumptions about what is or isn't feasible. Lead with curiosity and give yourself the permission to imagine that things are potentially possible. There are countless stories of people who've pivoted their careers and actually gone on to be significantly more successful post sort of their mid-career point than at the early part of their career. So Martha Stewart is a really good example of somebody who was a stockbroker, and then in her 40s, she pivoted into building the lifestyle empire that she's really known for. There's a lady called Bozoma St. John who started her career in marketing and went on to become the chief marketing officer for some recognizable names such as Uber and Netflix, who has now gone on in her 40s to start a hair care brand and her reality TV career. Sarah Blakely, who started Spanx, did so over the age of 40. So there are many examples of people who go on to lead very successful lives and build really thriving careers at this sort of mid-career point. So the thing I'll say is after you sort of given yourself permission to dream, explore the possibilities, do a bit of research and try to come up with a few different options of what the next phase of your career looks like. And then the last thing is really to kind of experiment, try some of these out and, see what kind of comes out of it. Now, oftentimes, one of the things people say to me when I give them this advice is they don't have time. And what I'd say to that is consider who in your life can support you. Consider the responsibilities that you partake in. Consider which of these you can outsource. consider where you can grab a couple of hours a day or a week to be able to really dedicate to yourself, because with every week, month, year that goes by, you lose the opportunity to kind of step into this new version of you, the more authentic, updated version of you. So as hard as it may be, it's really worthwhile with a bit of intention and a bit of planning to sort of give yourself time to explore some of these possibilities and to begin to set yourself onto a path of pivoting and building a career that is filled with purpose and that you're happy with and that aligns with the person you've become and the life that you're leading. So, some final thoughts here. Reinvention isn't just about changing careers. It's about realigning your work with your purpose. As you spend several decades building a solid foundation, this is a really good time for you to build something meaningful on top of it. And a key thing to remember is that you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. And the best part is that the next chapter and how you sort of move, how you navigate the next chapter, all of that is entirely dependent on you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Adapted Ambitions podcast. Next week, I'm going to be diving into a subject which I think is really important. And this is around burnout and designing a career that really feels good as it looks. So make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss it. Thank you for listening.